Strategy. Let's talk about some logistics. Partners, cash, time. I'm going to do some special modules on each one of those here coming up. Exit strategies, we've done several of those as we've talked about specific deals that were available on the tax deed auctions, the tax lien and tax deed auctions. But let's just look at some different little graphics that I've made up here. Exit strategies by property type. Okay, single family residential. We do a lot of these, guys. If we end up with a deed after a tax lien foreclosure, 7, 8 times out of 10, we're looking to do a quick cleanup, meaning we'll do a quick landscape. We'll get any of the trash out. If there's occupants still there, we'll cut a deal where they start paying rents, and then we'll flip the property for a very nominal margin. Percentage-wise, it's still great, but we're not looking to make a killing. We just want our money turning over and get it reinvested back into tax liens and keep making interest. Okay. Rehab for full profit, and you'll know. I mean, you'll get a good feel for a property and the comps and looking at all the other market statistics if you want to rehab it and go for it, because you're looking at after rehab value and or keep as a long-term rental. Okay. And so with your other training you're getting from us and so forth, and I'll give you a few other sources you can go look at, you'll get a good feel for which direction you want to go. Residential lots, quick wholesale deal, land bank for market upswing, and build on it for full profit. And I've talked quite a bit extensively about that. This image, by the way, guys, I took from one of our actual lots, and it's a very skinny golf course lot, but these are $300,000 to $500,000 houses. I know the owner of this project. It's an attorney from the Northeast, and he came in to this amazing project that was built for over $100 million and picked it up from the bank about 5 years ago for about $28 million and just revamped it. And it is just a high-end country club, golf course, residential community over on the East Coast in Florida. And oh my gosh, he actually had one of the backers of a national football team back him with the money. And what a great project. All right, exit strategies by property type, multifamily. It's kind of all the same thing, guys. You're not gonna get into a ton of this on the tax lien sales. There's a lot of extra kind of sticky things that come with commercial. That if you've got some experience with that, maybe you can look at buying some tax liens on commercial stuff. But we're heavily engrossed in some commercial projects right now, and there's a lot more that goes into that. Okay. But here's the big overall sense as you grow with starting with small conservative purchases and you start growing over the years in your knowledge base and experience levels, I definitely want you to diversify your portfolio over time, because any given market, there's always a hot product. Okay. Right now here locally, it's commercial. Okay. But if duplexes are hot and you've got some duplexes or liens on duplexes, you're in good shape. You know, and if you've got some single family, if you've got some other types of things, multifamilies like some fourplexes, wonderful. The point is, over time, diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Do a mix potentially of buying tax deeds and then buy some tax liens. One's a cash flow play. One's, as far as getting a quick turnover on your money. Tax liens are obviously a little bit more passive, long-term growth play, and very low maintenance in most cases. Okay. So that's just some generals on exit strategies. Now we're going to leave the FAQ summary until we get maybe to about the last half hour, 45 minutes of our presentation. But I'm going to go through extensively. This will be some review and some new stuff. The most frequently asked questions that we've had over the years on tax liens. Okay. And we'll dig into that. It's about 46 FAQs. A lot of this we've covered, but some of it we haven't. Okay, so that's coming. Now, I want to go to case study. Let's do some case study. And this is a PowerPoint I put together for a webinar series that we ran. And I'll skip over several of these slides because you've seen some of this already. Okay. I'm just going to get right to the case studies, showing my first letter. I'm so proud of that still. I've seen a lot of this. Foreclosure method, what is judicial versus non-judicial? That just means you file a lawsuit if you're in a judicial foreclosure state. Non-judicial, like a Florida, means that you do a tax deed application. Already went over. Okay, what's ad valorem taxes versus non-ad valorem, for example? Ad valorem is county-specific tax, meaning it's generated from the county. Non-ad valorem is going to come from the city or a school, and you'll see your taxes broken up in ad valorem versus non-ad valorem. Okay. I own a lien, now what? Well, I kind of already did the timeline with you, so I'll just go through this briefly. Homeowner response, redemption check, or foreclose. Okay. Common exit strategies. Wholesale quick money, we've been over this. Homeowner payment plan, we've done that. Okay. Leverage buyout, we haven't talked about that technique, but I've got a case study on the leveraged buyout. Okay. Or foreclose. So there's 3 strategies that go for interest and cash flow. These 2 are kind of your flip, go after the property strategy. I don't want to mess with the house. I just want the interest return. That's how many of you will feel about investing in tax liens. Other people say, I want to foreclose now and go after the deed and get the property. That's a personal decision. I can't really counsel you on that. Okay. Honestly, after doing this, guys, for a long, long time, I don't really care anymore. I really don't. If we get the redemption and we get paid on the interest, I'm happy. If we end up with the house and it's profitable, I'm happy. I cannot control, in most cases, what the property owner is going to do. All I know at the end of the day is if they don't pay that debt, I'm going to end up with that house. That's all I know because it's law. Okay? So it takes kind of some of the fear out of it. All right. Remember we talked about leverage buyout a couple minutes ago. So here's case study number 1. Now, this is a property, a 4-plex up in Syracuse, New York. We picked up a lien portfolio, probably 600-700 liens in it, and this was one of those liens. And here's kind of the background of the deal. So, and this isn't that long ago, it's just this lien was older. Here's the address, okay, it's a 4-plex. Everybody was paying in there, which was surprising because the guy is just a slumlord. This guy owned about 30 properties up here in Syracuse, and he was the perfect epitome of a slumlord. He had a horrible reputation, him and his son in town, and I knew it. My realtor up there is Mr. Fritz. His first name's Fritz, but that's his nickname, and he's done maybe 100 transactions for us up there. And just a great guy. But as soon as he looked up and we looked up on county record, he knew who we were dealing with. The guy just collects rents, he does nominal maintenance on the properties, and he stonewalls paying any debt or taxes. Okay, so we picked up this particular tax lien certificate and so forth. Fritz went and knocked on the door, talked to one of the tenants because it's a free country. And everybody was in there paying. A couple of the back units, I think one of them was on VA. I think an upstairs unit was getting Section 8. The other 2 were cash. Okay. There was some other delinquent taxes owed, and we confirmed tenancy. Okay. Now you can see what we have into the lien so far here. And I knew this guy was going to be ornery. I'm being nice because there's ladies present. Okay. I'm not going to call names. But we offered $25,000 originally. Okay. Actually, sorry. We offered $5,000 for him to walk away and give us the deed. Okay. He counteroffered at $25,000, thinking he had any leverage over us. And this was a phone call with me and him and our real estate agent Fritz, who had set up the phone call. Finally, we got a hold of the owner, and he was willing to talk. And we ended up, and basically that call lasted about 2 minutes. He ended up calling me a couple names, and I said, I think you're a slumlord and kind of a scumbag, and I'm going to foreclose on you. I'm starting that process today. So it was, again, guys, I'm not telling you that this is okay to do, but if somebody is taking advantage of the community, not paying their taxes, and just profiting off the backs of the people, I'm coming after them. Okay, that's how I felt about this one. So I was serious too. We've got a real pit bull attorney up there that was going to kick his teeth in. Now, again, I'm not advocating that's the best way to do business, so please forgive me if I have just offended anybody. But he came back after a couple of weeks. We ended up with an $11,000 walkaway price, sold as is. He had about a $2,000 water bill. And I told him, you're paying that water bill. And he did. Okay. Subsequent tax years. Okay. There's some other taxes owed. Okay. So you can kind of get a feel of where we're in on this thing now. Okay. When we got a contractor in there, some rotting out subflooring, the plumbing was shot in a few of the units. So we were looking at around 15 grand potential costs. Our cash out the door around 35K on this deal. Okay. So, okay, here's our HUD settlement statement from the actual purchase. Okay, when all was said and done. Okay, and there's our resale HUD. All right. So at the end of the day, with our HUD settlement statement, we had our title company just have us send them one wire to purchase this at the $35,000, and that included the payoff of $11,000 plus all the other stuff that needed to be paid in the back taxes and water bill, which he took out of his net proceeds of the $11,000. We forced it. Okay, so he didn't even pay the water bill. We had the title company do it with our money, but it came out of his side of the ledger. So he got that taken out of his $11,000, but we forced it. And then we turned that over and resold the property. It took us about 3 to 4 weeks to close out the transaction. But we've been talking to other investors locally to see if anybody would want to pick this up. We had also stabilized the property management relationship because the property managers weren't getting paid what they should have gotten paid. So we stabilized that as well. And as soon as we had a more stabilized situation after a few weeks with the property, the tenants, and property management, we felt at that point that it would be better then to sell it to the next investor. The next investor got the property inspected, came up with similar results to us as far as rehabilitation costs. This property, we feel, and at the time of this transaction, that it was worth fixed up, fully tenanted in this particular market around the $75,000, maybe $80,000 mark total. And so Sam, that's this person that bought it, that's what she goes by. Sam Wee, amazing investor, and we negotiated the $45,500 price after she had all of her contractor bids and inspections back. She felt like she would still then have a delta or margin of profit in equity even after she did her rehab. Again, guys, we just owned a lien. We did not go through the foreclosure process. We twisted the guy's arm, and what was he going to do? He could have tried to fight us in court and stall and delay tactics, but at the end of the day, he knew that we would win. There's no judge in the world, well, maybe, but that would have sided for him for any reason, and he did not want the attention of any judge because our attorney was prepared to say, Judge, this guy owes back taxes on about 25 different properties around town. We're just trying to clean the situation up and get the municipalities paid. And who pays the judges? Local government, okay? Not a big profit, but guys, remember, what's your cash on cash return? What was our original tax lien certificate here? Okay, yes, we had to put in the 35 as well, but we controlled the leverage with about a $4,600 tax lien, and that control, the rights that come with that tax lien certificate, give us all kinds of options to negotiate with the homeowners and potentially avoid having to pay attorneys to go through the foreclosure process, which in New York is a judicial process and could take months to complete. Okay, next deal. Here's the check that came in, okay, for $2,700. Okay, this is an actual redemption check. Okay, and I'm just showing you that how they're all broken up. So that's what this example was for. Here's the original face amount. I know we already showed this from my live email. These are a little bit older examples, but just to give you a little refresher here, we'll skip through some of these examples a little faster. Oh, I love this one. Glenn's one of our clients, okay? So he invested on this tax lien on 4/13 of 2012. This is what he paid for it because he bought it at a discount in the secondary market, and that's part of what you can do as well. And sometimes the counties will sell for a little less also, just to liquidate. His check came back, was cut as he was giving the money for it, but it was all in the mail. So they crossed, and he made a quick buck off that on this particular piece of land. Okay, that was a fun, quick case. So you never know how soon you're going to get redeemed is the point on this one. Okay, and again, results may vary. Then he turned around and bought another lien with it. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is one where the homeowner wanted to sell to us. They actually contacted us through county record because they could see on the county registrar that we own the tax lien debt. So Tracy just called from Youngstown, Ohio, wants to sell his home to us. Okay, he has 3 liens from us against his home for about $3,100. He wants to make us an offer, and if it's good, he'll sell. If not, he wants to start making a $200 a month payment starting in June towards those liens. So we talked to Tracy on the phone. Okay, our sales guy pulled his estimate real quick, just to get a quick beat on it. Okay, let's option 1, $200 a month in payments at 18%. I'm okay with that. Buy the house. Okay, we would have been very aggressive. Okay, what do you do next as an investor? Really, it's a very personal call at this point. There's revenue streams with either option. When you get down to decisions like this, talk to a partner, a spouse, a friend. Be careful on where you get your advice from, like we talked about. But what I would say is this: is you have to do some soul searching on if you want to get people out of houses or you want to try to work a deal out with them. And I can't make that call for you. I've been a landlord for so long, I'm kind of callous to it all anymore, to be honest with you. Okay, so let's keep clicking through here. Let's talk about the property. So it's this little house on the corner, very well maintained. We had a drive-by done on it. It's just immaculately maintained. And this was an older gentleman. He was looking to retire. Okay, he bought it for $48,000 in 2002. He had a fixed conventional mortgage loan on it, option 1. Okay, be the bank. Okay, that's what he chose to do. We couldn't agree on a sales price, by the way. I wanted it for too low. It was a great property. He still owed a mortgage on it. So he decided to make payments, and he did make his payments on that. Okay. So bank mortgage foreclosure, case study number 4. Okay. So this is a property out in Ohio again. Okay. We noticed that there was an auction, that it was scheduled to go to sheriff's auction. We owned a lien on it. It's a real rental class property here. This is a subject property. The crazy thing is we didn't have a lien on this particular piece of land. The property line runs right by that. Was that an IROC Z Camaro or whatever? Property line runs right there. We had a lien on this vacant lot right there, but the mortgage company had placed a lien on this property and our vacant lot. So we have some leverage with the mortgage company. Okay. Here's some stats about the house. Small little rental house, not worth a lot. Okay, very small house. And it went to auction. We worked it out with the mortgage company. We said we weren't going to foreclose, and they said they were going to continue to push it to the auction, and that we would just get paid the proceeds for our tax lien on the vacant land, and they were going to get their house. And we said, okay. So here's how it kind of breaks up. Here's the actual auction statement from the sheriff's department, and let's blow this up for you. Okay, here was the auction price. Okay. And we got paid first. Now, I think that Troy, had some questions about, who has priority to get paid or who has priority to do what sometimes. Well, we got paid before the bank did. Okay. So they harvested this much money out of what was owed to them. And their loan was for a lot more than that, by the way. So they lost a lot of money. We got our tax lien back, full redemptive value with interest. We were happy. And the sheriff cut us a check like the one I showed you there. But I could have been greedy, went for the foreclosure, but and it just wasn't worth it. Okay. Here's another little one. Okay, this was just a redemption that just came in. At the time I made this, it's on a piece of land that a lot of people would say, I don't know, this was in a portfolio. I don't know if it's worth it to buy a lien on this. Okay. Mobile home, 1 acres. Okay. Assessed value still 46,000. So there's the amount that we were paid. Okay. I'm just showing some redemptions. We'll skip through some of this because you've already seen lots of examples. Okay. Can a lien redeem after the foreclosure process has started? Yes. Okay. Here's an example of that. Okay. So this was one that a foreclosure had already started. George, really nice guy. Talked to him briefly over the phone. And this is our law firm that had started this foreclosure process. And this is an accumulation of our tax lien with the interest and attorney's fees that had accumulated and costs and your total amounts and so forth. Okay. And, we got paid on this, our portion. Okay. And this was there on confirmation of clearance of the check. So as soon as the check is paid, the foreclosure suit stops, but we get paid all the fees, the attorney gets paid, and so forth and so on. And so his wife, she wasn't completely aware of the situation. Again, a really, really nice couple. As soon as she found out what was going on, she cut us a check immediately to take care of that. Okay. So there's a few case studies. We're going to hit a few more. Home and landowners do not like to lose their property. If you get a redemption, turn your money over right away. You can be the bank and make a mutually beneficial situation with homeowners. Ugly houses redeem too, guys. I've been surprised at what redeems. I'm not saying you target them in your investment strategy. This actually in a portfolio, we had a tax lien on this for, I don't know, 120 bucks. They redeemed. They wanted to keep their paradise here. Looks like a fun time out in the yard. All right. So that's a previous training that I had done before. Let me give you some more recent case studies here. Okay. And let's see, I've got a handful that we can go through here. And let's start off with the Watson deal. And let's talk about the history of the deal. Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. So we purchased the original liens 2008, 2009, 2010 for this amount, 18 grand and change at 18% interest. We started the tax deed application process, paid $2,000 in legal fees, was awarded the deed on January 2016. So you can see kind of the timeline there. Total into the transaction, okay, fair market value, 57 to 58,000. And we ended up selling this just under 50, I want to say 47, 48 grand at the end of the day. Okay. And I just gave some tips there as one of our speakers that was reaching out for me for recent case studies. And I gave him some statistics. We ended up not doing much fix up at all to that property and just flipped it. We just did kind of a cleanup rehab on it. I think we could have done better if we wanted to spend more time on it, but we didn't. So let's go back and look at, oops, I think I closed that whole thing. Nope, it's still here. Sorry, I got too much open. And let's go in and we'll look at the comps I pulled. Okay, giving me that range. Really solid comps in this area. Only a handful of trash outs in this area. Really solid values. Tightly condensed around our subject, so those are valid comparables an appraiser can use. Okay, here's our subject. Okay, some other ranges of values. Pulled several comp reports. Low crime, so I pulled that off Trulia. Here's my rental analysis section. Okay, good stuff. Rental meter, more rent comps. So did a lot of extensive background on this. And do you remember, guys, when I said I do screen captures? All these are little screen captures when I was doing my research with this little snipping tool down here. And I just went and did a screen capture real quick. Okay, saved it to the file. Now, over a year later, because we liquidated this, gosh, what was it, last January? It's been well over a year now. I can go in and immediately know what and refresh my, and here's our subject property, but immediately refreshes my memory in the deal. Okay. Here's our little subject street. So that's the Watson deal. Okay. And all the supporting docs, here's our deed when we got it, all the core logic, background information. That's one of my companies. Okay, so we did own this. All right, let's take a look at this one. Okay, deal history. Purchased the original lien. This actually was one of our clients for $2,700. Started the tax deed application, legal fees. Okay, was awarded the deed. Total transaction, fair market value range. All the same stats. Okay, this is a good little deal. We ended up buying this from him. He just wanted $1,000 to walk away, and then we resold this property. Let's look at the property. I'll have to remember what we resold it for. All the stats, rent ranges. Here's the little subject property. It was pretty dinged up inside, so we dumped about $7,000 to $8,000 into this. It was by a local airport and a good traffic area, so we did pretty well on it. I think we put about $7,000 or $8,000 into it, and we probably netted about the same for a quick sale on that one. Okay, it's a good ballpark on that. Purchased the original lien for $3,300 at 18% interest. Tax deed application. Got the deed on March of 2015. 16 grand into the transaction. I hope you guys, this isn't too small. Let me expand that. Okay. I'll just make sure you can see this. Okay, maybe that's a little better, you guys. Okay, total into the transaction 16,000. Not as big of a spread on this one. Okay, but this was on a lot. This was on a lot, much like the one that we looked out there in Cape Coral. I know Charles, Dr. McCord, sold that for $27,900 because we actually referred him to a local agent that he used to sell it. So not a massive profit. He's obviously not going to retire off that, but after he paid realtor fees and closing costs, he did okay. And that was on a vacant developed lot. And let's look at the images of that. This one, I believe, was in more the southwest quadrant of Cape Coral. So again, we like to have houses around our properties. Yep, that's the southwest region. It's doing really well. And here's your drone pic. No, that's not the right property. I don't know what that is. It was not a wet lot. Yep, it's a dry lot here. Here's your comps. Okay, he did a little bit. He did on the high side. He was at 27.9 at the time. Okay. There's the location of those comps, housing metrics. Again, this is about a year ago or so when he actually sold it, so our metrics are even better now there. That's kind of interesting to look back at that history, you guys. All right, so that's all our supporting documentation. assignment deeds. There's the tax deed. That's what they look like, guys, when you actually get awarded the tax deed when you get it back. Okay. Okay. So some quick case study. All right. Let me look to see if we have any questions. Oh, good. All right, now, guys, what I want to do is get through some short modules with you guys. And some of these we'll just spend 1 minute on, 2 minutes on, but I'm really excited to get through this kind of bonus material with you guys. It's all relative to tax liens and tax lien investing. But I want to really give you some extra things that will help you in all of your real estate investing, like this. And again, I'm going to expand this font size so you can really see it on your screen. Okay. Common sense good deal checklist for your property purchases. And I should have put in here tax lien investing as well. So when you're looking at tax liens to buy, use some of these common sense kind of criteria to just give yourself a gut check when you're excited to buy stuff and get in the game, but come back and look at these different common sense things, okay? I would say in general, if you answer no to 3 or more of these questions, probably not do the deal. So here's the common sense checklist. Would I or my family feel safe there at night? Does the house fit in with others in the neighborhood? Meaning, is it the odd man out house? Is it the one Spanish style house in a whole Rambler neighborhood? Okay. Is the house in a residential neighborhood, one with more houses than businesses or apartments? Is the house worth saving? And sometimes the answer is absolutely not. Okay. Don't think that you're going to go into a house where a neighborhood in some of these markets where the house is worth, $50,000 in good condition, and you have to spend $50,000 on the fix-up, even though you're only into the deal $5,000 on the lien. I still think that's a horrible decision to do. And the problem is that you could do it and still maybe make a few bucks, but what would you do with the time otherwise and with that cash? With that same $50,000 you spent on the rehab and the fact that it might take 3 to 5 months to rehab it, prepare it to sell, and then actually get an offer and get it closed, what could you have done in purchasing other tax lien certificates in that 3 to 5 month period with that same money? A lot more, and you wouldn't be as tired at the end of the process, okay? Would the house conform to FHA lending guidelines? Remember we talked about that little fixer-upper in Idaho? I thought that would be a great starter house and to fix it up to FHA guidelines. If the purchase price is 25% less than similar homes have sold for in the neighborhood. So that's kind of a general rule of real estate investing. We want to buy it maybe around the 70-75% range at the max of after rehab value. Now, I said earlier, I want to get it for as low as possible at all times, but I certainly won't go above that threshold with my all-in price to the property. Could I complete renovations in less than 2 months? I would even say 30 days. Could I pay someone less than $25,000 to bring it up to satisfactory condition? My opinion on rehabs, unless it's a big custom home, is that it's just going to be super time consuming. If you're getting into rehabs over $25,000, that's what I would classify as a major gut job. Okay. So economic conversion, I love this one. Economic conversion for real estate investors. Now, let me do this. Let me make this bigger. I'm not going to read all this, so don't panic. Okay. This is one of the big money makers in real estate I've done very well with. And another term for this little section here might be just thinking outside the box. Thinking outside the box. Economic conversion is an event whereby a property owner makes a change in the usage of real estate that allows the net rents or after rehab sales price to be increased. When these types of changes are made, the economic return on the invested capital increases. In layman's terms, we're partially changing or completely changing the original use of the property to increase profit. It's important you study all your options. Okay, for example, it may be easy to increase the resale price or rents to any given property by making improvements. The trick is to make sure the cost of those improvements are not a detriment to your cash flow. How long will it take you to pay for the 6,000 granite countertop you just spent? Let's say you can attract a renter that's willing to pay $100 more in rent because of the nice new granite countertops, which usually is not the case. It'll take you 60 months or 5 years to break even on your investment for that extra granite. Okay? So that's not the type of economic conversion that I'm talking about. I'm talking about making new bedrooms, converting a sunroom into a bedroom. Okay, for example, here's a few steps to think about. Do your homework. Look at what is allowed by educating yourself on current zoning laws for a target property area. I will tell you this, you guys. Okay, one of the biggest things that we're looking at right now is assisted living for economic conversion. Assisted living. Okay, here's my whole folder on assisted living. I am looking at properties all over the place right now that are the right square footage and so forth to actually get an assisted living project approved in that particular area. So I'm gathering pro formas, different reports on the senior housing industry right now by other companies that do this. I'm just gathering all kinds of stuff about pro formas, about this particular business model. Okay, so economic conversion, that would be a perfect example of taking a 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square foot house that's in maybe like an older money neighborhood, but really nice, maybe like a 70s, 80s, or 90s build, and then refurbishing it, making it ADA compatible, one where there's could be multiple kitchens on different levels and different access points, very safe, usually a big rambler style, not a two-story, but a big rambler style, maybe with a basement, with some room for lifts on the stairs and things like that. So that would be an example of an economic conversion. Okay. Stay within your comfort zone, given several viable options, each of which shows promise for economic gain. The best economic conversion would be a change that's suited to the investor's ability and capability. This goes beyond your level of competence in property management or flipping. The total comfort level should include the financial responsibility that will come with the project as well. Don't take the enjoyment out of the profession for yourself. Let me tell you about a 14-month period where I took the enjoyment out of this business for myself. And so this was in late 2006, early 2007. Myself and my mortgage company partner decided we were going to buy a property at auction. And again, market was very healthy at the time. We were feeling a little cocky, I guess. And so we purchased a 6,200 square foot custom home at auction for $710,000. We had some bank help. We got a loan on that. And we had to put down a significant amount of cash for the down payment. And we proceeded then over the next couple months to get the property rehabilitated. So the driveway was trashed, the yard was bad, the interior was impeccable. So the exterior is what was really wrong. They had some settling issues. And the interior, we didn't have to spend a lot of money on the interior other than upgrading some of the countertops and appliances. But we didn't have to do a lot. But we still spent about $80,000 on this. So by the time we had the property ready for resale, we were just about $830,000 into this after a couple of months, right? And we got greedy and we ran our comps. We had a really good agent in the area that we'd worked with before. We hired her to list the property. She's a real go-getter and dealt in custom homes. And fairly quickly, she had an offer for us. We listed it at $2.2 million. She brought in an offer for 2.1, And we told them, no way. And we counted at 2.2 because, again, remember, the market was super strong. And this was the now getting towards the fall of 2007. And you guys know what happened in early 2008, late 2007. That's when the crash started. All of a sudden, banks that offered jumbo loans were pulling their programs. And we see this on a daily basis because remember, we own a mortgage company. So we get these rate sheets every day, and we started seeing jumbo loan programs disappear off of our rate sheets. And we're going, whoa, what's going on? This was before the headlines. And we wish that we would have taken that offer because we ended up selling the house for, we lost about $200,000 when we finally sold the house and another 7-8 months worth of payments. So it was about a $300,000 swing, you guys, and a lot of stress making that payment every month because we had no cash flow that came right out of our pockets. And my wife was starting to get really, let's just say, anxious. And so that humbled me. I can't tell you how much. And I was so relieved when we finally sold it. We still did very well on the transaction, but because of our ego and the stress over that total 14-month period, by the time all was said and done, I took the enjoyment out of the business. I will never, ever do that again. And that has humbled me because that could have been a much bigger loss. We were lucky to sell it before the market really, really got bad because that person defaulted on the property a couple years later, and another investor came along and bought it at auction again. This would maybe have been about 3.5 years later for $640,000 after we did all those improvements. So some bank lost almost $1.5 million on that loan, or about $1 million or whatever it turned out to be. Yeah, it was about $1 million. And another investor, I don't know who bought it, but we saw it pop on county record. Our realtor called us and said, "You're not going to believe it." And it sold for $640,000 at auction. And just an amazing story, you guys. So don't take the enjoyment out of this business. Be humble, be conservative in what you're doing. Okay. Lender preferences, overcome pitfalls. Okay, sorry, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. Learn how to avoid or overcome pitfalls. Far too many investors divulge their plans too early. Your great idea might be picked up by someone else if you're not careful, and they go buy the property ahead of you. Never tell a hard money lender your plans. So if you're out seeking private money in your marketplace or a hard money lender, they don't need you. They're already experienced in real estate. They're lending on houses. They know values very well. They're pretty savvy about this stuff. I had it happen to a friend of mine where he was told it to a hard money lender. This is out in Texas. The next day, that property's gone. And he looked up title a few days later, and the hard money lender went and bought it and did exactly the conversion and the rehab that he was planning. Okay. Every investor should realize that time can be both a friend and an enemy when making economic conversions. The smarter investor asks for ample time in any contract and financing terms to accomplish everything needed. Okay. Here are some general ideas for economic conversion on top of, say, the 55 and older thing that we're starting. Convert a garage or sunroom into another bedroom. Create an RV storage lot out of a vacant lot. I've seen that. It actually works out well if you get the lot cheap enough. Okay. Turn a single family residence into a small office building. Hold an old style motel might be converted into small shops. I've seen that in Florida. I've seen it in other states, in Arizona as well. Drive-in theater, convert a single family residence into a duplex, larger single family into a retirement home. That's what I was just talking about. An old warehouse may become a profitable climate-controlled self-storage facility. Okay. Now, let's talk about that for just a second. I'm going to spend 30 seconds on this, you guys. We now have started into self-storage with some land that we picked up. And like I say, guys, land is still great, and you have lots of options when you own land. But let me show you what we're putting up on here. It's going to be self-storage with, you can't see that, I'm sorry, with a combination of business, office, retail. Here's our actual project, okay? So it is a junkyard right now. What do you think of that, guys? But it's in a very prominent up and coming commercial district where land values are growing. Man, is this, guys, you gotta be able to have a vision on some of this stuff. You've got to expand your thinking, because I mean, who would look at this site and think that there's any money that could come out of it, right? And this is just the self-storage down the way just a little bit. Okay. Here's our contract. We have this under contract. Okay. For $1.3 million. We have arranged seller financing on this. Huge tip for you guys. Okay. This is what we're going to put down after earnest money, and we're seller financing $825,000 of this. Okay. It'll be about another $3 million to build what we want to build. There's our accepted REPC. Title report. Here's another example of a title report. There was 19 easements. I'm going to scroll here. I know you can't see this yet. There was 19 utilities easements, none of which will impede our ability to build on this. They were mostly in the air. Okay. So these easements on first glance might be scary, but our surveyor went out there with these legal descriptions and told us exactly where these easements were. And luckily the city didn't mess us up to be able to build on this. They could have, but they laid it out pretty well. So that title reports are very important, but 19 separate easements on this. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I have the pro forma here, you guys. It's very rough still. Okay. Let me pull open the spreadsheet. And again, guys, I'm not showing you this to say we don't have a lot to work out. We do. As far as, you know, how many units in our blend. And it's going to take us, we probably won't have this done till maybe late 2017 by the time all's said and done. That's a big project. Okay. But you can start to see some of the operating revenues here. Okay. Operating expenses. Okay. And let's go over to the summary page here. I know that's kind of small, and we'll scroll up to the top. This is what a sample commercial pro forma looks like. Again, I'm just giving you guys brainstorming and ideas. Here's our costs, everything with the buildings. Okay. Oh, and some other land development around it. Asphalt's also in there. Here's our unit mix. Okay. These are the unit sizes. I pulled comparables from dozens of other self-storage facilities, which doesn't take long because they're all on the internet. So I priced it out fairly quickly. Okay, there's our annual gross revenue. That's not profit. I wish. Okay. And just some other miscellaneous costs annually that go into having a building of this sort. Okay, so again, economic conversion, keeping an open mind. A junkyard can be turned into something like this. Okay, and so, you know, the whole point of this module is think outside the box. Okay, but don't do it. Don't get real risky. Okay, and let's close that up. Emerging real estate markets. How do you tell what a hot market is? Okay. I made a statement, I think yesterday, that most real estate market cycles fluctuate over about a 5 to 7 year period unless there's a big boom time or some huge, I mean, we just came out of one, right? An emerging market is a market which for demand for real estate far exceeds the supply. This type of market can be a wise investor's dream. Appreciation can be as much as 10% a month. I'm not going to read all this, guys. We've talked a lot about market statistics and trends, but be cautious, okay? Be cautious is the point here. I'm very much a contrarian. When everybody's doing this thing over here, I'm thinking it's going to get saturated, and I want to do this thing over here. That's why I always talk about diversification. So if one market does swing up over here, say in duplexes or 55 and older, or single family houses or new builds, I can ride that wave up, but I still have my stable rentals over here and a small self-storage or whatever retail space, whatever the diversification is. And in that way, if one market is really struggling, I'm still have cash flow and revenues from my diversified portfolio. So I'm not going to spend much more time on that than we have in the past. Okay. All right. Let's pull up. This is a good one. Real estate time bombs to watch out for. Let's see. Oh, Lynetta. What helps you pull the trigger and make a purchase? How do you deal with fear? I'll be quite candid with you. I think why I personally feel like I've been successful in this business, Lynetta, on the whole fear factor thing, is I'm afraid all the time. I don't think you ever want to overcome that fear. I've seen people, and not to the point that it constricts my activity to do nothing, okay? But I am afraid all of the time of losing my hard-earned money and having to go home and tell my wife that I just lost 20 grand on a bad deal or whatever the amount was. I'm afraid of that moment when I've got to look at her, and it's her money too, and say, I just lost our money because I didn't do something that I should have, or I was just an idiot. Okay. Also, much of what we're doing involves other people's money, whether it's bank finance money or partner money, and that holds a tremendous weight of responsibility for anybody involved in the transaction, especially if you're the one signing that you're going to pay it back. So that I take very seriously. And that's why I'm such a huge believer in you always keep studying. Okay. That's why, excuse me just for a second, guys. That's why I am constantly printing for myself. I burn up a lot of toner and keep up to date with the market. So American Rental Housing Report by Harvard University Housing Studies. That's a fun read. So I fly a fair amount. That's going to be something I would start reading on the plane. I've got reports here, Securities and Exchange Commission on the new Regulation A rules for crowdfunding for real estate. That's about a half-inch thick read. I'm afraid of losing money and not keeping up with the market and not being an industry expert. So I study. Okay. The Market Pulse by CoreLogic for 2016. Hottest housing markets for 2016. Guys, yes, I'm the ultimate real estate nerd, but it is because I'm afraid of losing money. Okay. Profile of today's renter, Multifamily Research Center, October 2015, done by Freddie Mac. Okay, a government institution that has access to a ton of data. So I feel like that if you ever lose the fear before you pull the trigger, you will start losing money shortly after that. And how do I know that? Because I saw some good friends and other local investors that we did mortgage loans for in the ramp up between about 2000 and 2006 just throw a band into the wind. And they were cocky, they were driving nice cars, they were doing equity skimming techniques, some legal, some I felt were not legal, of pulling equity out of homes and then reinvesting that. And when I started seeing them reinvest in things like boats and cars and being a hotshot, I knew that it was a house of cards, that their debt obligations would overcome if the market took any sort of hiccup. They would not have enough cash to maintain all those assets. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Okay. And those that subverted the rules, a handful of people went to jail that I know of. Now, these weren't close friends or acquaintances or business partners, but a few people hit the headlines around here because they were way too cocky and threw caution to the wind. So maybe to answer your question is a healthy dose of fear for any investor, I think, is good. But don't let it stop you from learning more. I can promise you that the more knowledge that you know, the better it's going to empower you to make action. Okay? And start small, build your way up, And when you start making profits and so forth, don't go buy a Porsche. Save it, put your profits back into the business, make sure you've got a good tax accountant, and be conservative, okay? If one were to describe my investing style and pace, I'm the tortoise, I'm not the hare. Okay, I don't live an extravagant lifestyle. I still work for a living. I'm a consultant at firms like this, and I have my own stuff that I work on as well. I love consulting. It's afforded me to get a lot of partner relationships going to do projects that I couldn't have done completely by myself, like self-storage and things like that. So that's been great. Okay, Lynette, I hope that helps you with your question. Hidden time bombs. I'm not going to go into each of these individually. You know, the history, let's see, moisture damage, that's mold. I've ran into that, guys. It can be solved. Lead-based paint in older markets. That's a big deal. If you're in inner city, properties older than 1978, you have to sign a special addendum. And there's a little pamphlet that's supposed to be distributed at the point of sale that the federal government puts out. And watch out for lead-based paint that can be remediated. Radon gas, toxic chemicals like popcorn ceiling. Anybody remember when they were kids and you had the popcorn ceiling? Could have the presence of asbestos. I've scraped it a couple times myself with just a regular sawdust mask, the little white ones that you see people wearing. Really stupid idea, okay? And so I've done a lot of swinging the hammer myself, taking shortcuts, and I've ran into every single one of these other than underground storage tanks. I don't think I've ran into that. But toxic chemicals, we repaired a meth house, a couple meth houses. We've had some deaths in properties, all kinds of stuff. Probably dealt with mold the most. So one of the instances that we bought a short sale house and the basement had flooded. The property had sat vacant on foreclosure for, gosh, 6-9 months. And there was about 1.5 feet of mold, black mold, growing up in the basement. We just cut it all out. We gutted it. We took out some of the studs. We took out all the sheetrock. We had it treated. We had it encapsulated and sealed with various products, whether it was the cement flooring, basement, new studs. And we disclosed it to the new owner, but then we showed them everything. The certified company, a good friend of mine, Jerry, owns Complete Restoration here locally, had that business for about 20 years, and he knows how to get a property completely remediated so it will pass any sort of code checks and or insurance requirements from a local homeowners insurance company. Now, the reason that we think about homeowners insurance companies when we're getting into properties, guys, is because the new owners are going to need to have homeowners insurance as required by their mortgage loan and good common sense, right? But there's a national database for home insurance companies that if there's claims made against a property like water damage, that will show up on the database. And I promise you, your farmer's agent is going to say, hey, was that stuff fixed? Before you can get this house underwritten, we may have to show that the work was done. I ran into that on a property I bought up here in Cedar Hills, Utah, that I lived in personally, where it had a couple different claims. And my personal farmer's agent, Jeff, here locally, I've been with him, I don't know, 10 years. I'm sorry, about 20 years. He said, Sean, you've got to show that with pictures that's been fixed and any invoices. And I said, well, it must have been done before I moved there, but I showed him pictures. And I was able to get the policy. All right, so hidden time bombs. Watch out for that, guys. Most of that's common sense stuff. All right, property line encroachments. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I shared with you a couple different things. That property that we picked up in Arizona, okay, from that unfortunate person that lent money on it, and it had a property line encroachment from the state highway. We closed that transaction to buy the easement for about $4,500. Now our agent is now selling the property for us, either in a long-term lease or we're going to sell it outright. We'll see how it goes. But again, a good title person is going to help you with this. And looking at the actually looking at the parcel map will tell you 90% of what you need to know in most cases. Okay, let's see what else I got here. Developmental trends. Gosh, I feel like we've talked a ton about that. Local planning and zoning. So let's move on. Oh, okay. And this is going to go to our next bonus module. Let me do this, guys. I'm going to run another PowerPoint that I did. I was asked to give a special session to some of our clients about how to raise private capital. And I really enjoyed this. I've done a lot of raising private capital over the years. This is not necessarily always going out and borrowing from banks in the traditional method. So it's from motivated sellers who might want to sell or finance the deal. Remember this, the self-storage land, you guys. Remember I showed you the actual contract that we wrote, gosh, about 6-7 weeks ago now, where we're now kind of basically partnering with the owner. He's going to finance $850,000 worth of that land to us. And so that's what I'm talking about, motivated sellers. He's going to get $500,000 in cash. His health isn't great, but his wife and his adult children, he wants to take care of. And he's an amazing man. And then he gets a payment of $5,900 a month until that is paid off, or until we get bank financing to do the whole project, and he'll get paid off from that. So he could get paid off fairly quickly, or the payments could go out maybe up until a year to 18 months max, probably. So let's start this, guys, and we'll go through here. All right, so motivated buyers, cash investors, motivated sellers. Let's talk about each of those as far as raising private capital. Who has the money? Okay, there's a lot more cash out there than you might think, but when you start poking around, you can find it. Now, Colony Capital is a hedge fund. Okay, so this is now kind of the boom. There's a ton of these hedge funds, and now crowdfunding is coming around, you guys. For real estate, there's a lot of crowdfunding where you can actually submit your project into a crowdfunding platform. And I just came from a crowdfunding conference in San Francisco, the largest one in the world, and it was phenomenal. It's called Lend It, and I'll show you a little bit more about that at the end of this. Okay. Blackstone. We know Blackstone and the hedge funds have been buying a ton of properties. They're now more in a maintenance mode, but in a lot of these areas, there's a ton of private investment money coming into the area that we can, tap into if we know the right people. Okay. International investors are coming in hot and heavy, as much now as ever into these markets. So keep that in mind if you have any international relations. Okay, we've worked a few. Okay. And this is just talking about 90% of foreign buyers in Florida purchase properties all cash. Now, there's a couple different venues that I use to harvest international. One is LinkedIn. Honestly, as far as social media, that's LinkedIn is about as fun as watching paint dry. Okay, that's kind of the stigma that they have. But I love the networking that they have in the various groups. So I'm members of groups, real estate minded, investor minded groups in the UK, Australia. A lot of it's English speaking, obviously, Singapore, and some Middle East. I've had in some of those areas though, you're not sure, the tough part is you don't know if they really are who they say they are in some of these international relations. So you always have to use a lot of caution. Okay. This is all just talking about cash sales. Okay. Finding the money to flip houses, to invest in tax liens, to buy tax deeds. The lack of money is the major barrier. Let's see, did I expand that? Yeah. To aspiring real estate investors. Fortunately, you don't have to be personally wealthy to get started. There are many sources of cash. I believe that one of the most valuable real estate investing skills is finding capital. Okay. So here's some options that we have. Okay. So let's talk about friends and family. Okay. Here's my first advice is just don't. Look, if you have a deal go south, it's going to make Thanksgiving dinners for the rest of your life incredibly awkward. I would say sometimes with friends and family, the appropriate business decisions cannot be made because of familiarity or sometimes of emotion. Okay? If it works out, you're blessed because a lot of times it doesn't and they turn south quick. But if you've got great relations in this area, it's actually one of the best ways to work this business with those that you love. But it's tough. Okay? Passive investors. So there's a lot of retirees, for example, that you could offer, and be careful how you present your information because there's laws regarding of how you display investment opportunities. Be very careful. But could you offer somebody, retiree, better than their mutual fund? I believe so. I believe real estate is the safest asset since the history in the world, especially land. So I think it's better, safer than any other type of investment, but that's just my opinion. Okay, professionals, doctors, lawyers, or just somebody that wants they've got $30,000 in their savings or retirement account and they want to put it to work. Could you put it into a safe tax lien certificate for them and partner with them on the proceeds and earnings? Buy a tax deed property. Yeah, sure you could. Anyone who wants a better lifestyle. Okay, and I think that's why all of us are here as well. Okay, doing good. Look, you guys already know this, but 401ks aren't growing with what they used to. And I watched a special documentary not 2 nights ago on the fees that some of the fund managers, how the fees as your account goes higher. I'm not an expert on this, on how the fees also escalate as well. And if you look at a prospectus of 20, 30 years, it's crazy how many fees come out of certain types of annuities and so forth. And again, I'm not an expert on it, but I don't care. I'm an expert in real estate. And if I've got any insurance buddies or anything like that, I'll say I'd be happy to look at your whole life insurance policy and compare it over a 30-year period to my little rental portfolio, let alone the other things I'm doing. I would be happy to do a head-to-head numbers crunch if you start out with this much money, because that's always the thing. If you start out with just a little bit of money, it's going to grow to this. I'd be happy to just run it on a home mortgage versus a whole life insurance policy. If I prepay $200 a month instead of putting it into a whole life insurance policy and pay my mortgage off 7 years early, and then take my whole mortgage payment and that additional $200 and invest it into a mutual fund or into tax lien certificates for the next 8 years, I'm going to have a lot more than that whole life insurance policy has every time. So my insurance buddies don't hit me up anymore. Okay. All right. This is just saying people aren't comfortable. Okay. No time. Look for the open-minded people. A lot of times your partners may have cash, but many of you are professionals listening to this as well. In whatever your various aspect of your career or job or work is, but what I do know about you is that you're success-minded, or you wouldn't be sitting here listening to me 6 hours every day on the weekend if you were not ambitious. So I'm assuming that you guys have busy lifestyles, and the people that you associate with are probably like-minded and are busy as well. And if you become their expert on real estate investing, you can help them leverage their time through you. Okay, that's what I do. I have lots of doctor buddies, for example, that we did mortgage loans for back in the day, that it morphed into a friendship. Some attorney friends, people with their self-employed as well, that I just developed relationships with over the years. And we said, hey, you want to go in with us on this little condo rental for $120,000 here locally? Was what we did with our first doctor client. And he was very thorough. It was actually painful getting through the first deal with him, anesthesiologist. I didn't think he'd ever do it. This is a man that wears a 30-year-old digital Timex from the 80s, but brilliant. He's a genius, but worth a lot of money. And we earned his respect through that first deal, and it's blossomed since then. Okay. Those planning for retirement, self-directed IRAs, monies can be used in certain circumstances to purchase real estate. Okay. Active investors. So that's more the passive investors. Here's the key, guys. Okay. Active investors with money. There's a lot of folks running around that are getting started and are super excited. Nothing wrong with that. We all start somewhere, right? But your focus is to find the ones with actual resources, and then you're their gopher in a sense. Okay, you're bird dogging deals. You're looking for rehabbers, flippers, rental property owners. I love it because rental property owners already know they want to invest in real estate. How do you find them? Public record. Property managers have a whole list of them. Okay, so when you find a deal, all right, that could be a good little rental property in your local market or some of these markets that you might be working in outside of your area, and you think it might be a good little rental property, get Marge on the line with property management, a local property manager, and say, hey, I've got a deal. If I give it to you, Marge, I've already got it under contract. That's the key, so it doesn't get swiped out from underneath you. Will you distribute this to your list of investors? Now, the first thing, what I found when I approached with this script early on with property managers is they were thinking that I wanted their list. I don't want the list. That's the value of their business is their client list. Okay. I said, and I'll even say it up front, I don't want your list, but here's what I have under contract. And I'm sure they would be grateful if you referred it to them. You can take all the credit. And I'm looking for a partner on this, and I'm sure that they would be excited to give you the management business of this rental property. So I can help you expand your portfolio of rental properties. You can help me potentially gain a new partner, and I'm finding all the deals, and you can take all the credit for it. That is a great technique, guys, that you can work over time, and that you might be able to find active investors with actual money. A great thing to do is hang out at the auctions, guys, because if they're buying at auction, guess what they have to have on hand? Real cash, usually funded within 24 hours. So go cozy up to some people at the auctions, all right? Now, what's an accidental real estate investor? Somebody that paid too much for their house back in the day that might have to relocate for a job, and they are upside down in the property. In some markets, this scenario still exists. So they are stuck with the property, and you see these folks, they can't afford to pay a realtor. You find them on Craigslist in the for sale by owner section, and it's a guy that's posted a few pictures. I've harvested several of these deals over the years, and you just feel for his plight. So I'll look to partner with the accidental real estate investor, the homeowner, that's now relocated out of the state, and I'll say, hey, look, I've got local property management. Let's partner up. I'll spend the money to fix it up. Okay. Now you're going to have some, I think, a good attorney. You're going to have to place a lien on the property, in my opinion. It would be in second place to the first mortgage, but you don't go into a deal like this unless you're secure. If you're going to spend money on that rehab, because they could just sell it out from underneath you. So be careful. Be careful. Okay. Social media. Meetup meetings, investor club meetings. There's only a few good ones out there, quite frankly. A lot of these meetup type groups or homeowner groups are nothing more than just a place where local realtors and mortgage guys can plug their product, but there's not a lot of real estate investment deals being talked about. Nothing wrong with that. It's still good to go out and get to meet people within the industry and get networked. But I'd just be cautious. Also, there are a few wolves that go out there looking for sheep, and they've got really crappy deals they're trying to pass on. Okay, So they'll go out and farm for chumps, is what I call it, farming for chumps. So just be careful if you're going to some of the networking type meetings and so forth. So active investors, you want to find guys that are swinging the hammer, that are the real deal. They're easy to find because their trucks are in front of the properties. You see their signs. You can see their listings, which says on the listing, recently remodeled home for sale. Okay, this guy might be a flipper. All right, they're real easy to find with searches on, rental property owners. I'm just saying how easy it is to find. And here's your Craigslist, guys. Okay, Craigslist goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, the challenge with Craigslist is realtors have crept into the for sale by owners section. Now Craigslist tries to keep them out, but it doesn't always work. Where it's just a listing, it's not a true for sale by owner. So just be a little cautious of that. Okay, this is what an auction looks like. So cozy up to them. Some are at the county. I've been to both. I've been at the county court steps. I've been at the house. Okay. Frustrated landlords. Okay, that's another one. I've been a frustrated landlord a couple times in my career, and man, I'll tell you what. There's been a couple times where my wife has said, just sell them all, sell all the rentals. I'm sick and tired of this renter giving us the runaround, and we've stuck with it. But it can be a challenge at times. Okay, there's a couple times in my landlording career where I was about done. But luckily, I know how to operate very well in small claims court, and I've got some good pit bull attorneys here locally. It's been pretty mellow the last 5 years, to be honest with you. Very, very good track record with my tenants. So I'm very grateful for that. Inheritance properties, there's a lot of red tape around those, especially with probate, job relocation. All of these things could make for possible seller finance partners. Guys, I showed you a deal. Not just a deal on a single family house for $150,000, but I showed you a deal on a very expensive piece of commercial land. I am telling you, if I can do that, being kind of a scatterbrain sometimes with too many irons in the fire, if I can do that, I know you can do it on a single family house and go find these people and set up some possible seller finance partners, okay? What does this have to do with tax lien investing? I'm going to keep bringing you around as we're in these models, because tax lien investing, you can find all these partners that already are interested in real estate investing, and then you are the expert in tax liens to them. Okay, that's why I'm telling you how to go find these people, because they already like investing in real estate, and they would absolutely, trust me, the bulk of these people would love it if they could invest in tax lien certificates, okay, as well. All right, active REIN. Okay, that's like the Facebook for anybody that's in real estate, mortgage, title, appraisal. I mean, if you want to get networked, become active on this site. It's massive. It's huge, okay? I sounded like Donald Trump then, didn't I? Sorry. All right. What do real estate investors want? Okay, you got to answer some questions. So if you're approaching somebody, I think you've got to have a clear idea on the deal. What are you, don't give up too much in this negotiation, you guys. Just because somebody's funding your whole deal, or they're the ones funding your tax lien buys at auction, don't give up too much, because remember, you're the one that's going to be putting in the labor, the research, the expertise, okay? How much are they going to make? You need to clearly give them that. That's the first thing that they want to know, is what's in it for me? What can I make off the deal? And when they're going to get it. The challenge with tax lien investing is that if you're still in a regular open cert, tax lien cert, and it's open before you have ran it to the tax deed application process, the only honest answer, if they say, hey, when is this tax lien going to redeem? If I give you $1,000 to go buy this tax lien, I need to know exactly when it's going to redeem. Here's how I usually answer that question, to be completely honest and to set the posture where it needs to be. Because I don't want them calling me every month saying, why isn't my tax lien redeemed? Oh, I think this was a bad deal. What I tell them immediately is, this is not a certificate of deposit with a 6-month window. Okay, so immediately that's kind of what they're thinking about a tax lien certificate. Most people think of it at first like a CD. Okay, so you got to tweak their thinking right away, and then you say, I have no idea. All right. So is that a great way to instill confidence in a potential real estate investor partner? I think it's the best way. So I'm going for the shock factor, and I say, I have no clue when this is going to redeem. Just like I said to you guys, here's what I say next. All I know is that interest is accruing at X amount of percent, and if they don't pay me, okay, I'm going to take their house. I have the legal right to go and foreclose and take that house. Now they're interested. Now like, oh, you mean we can get the house from a $2,000 tax lien plus some legal fees, maybe pay off a few of the other subsequent taxes, wait 6 to 18 months depending on the state and how long the foreclosure process takes. We could actually end up with that property. I love this because remember who you're talking to. Okay, this is a guy that goes to auction, spends 200 grand right then and there to get the house. Okay, for example, and he sees this backdoor opportunity, and the fact that while he's waiting to get the house, he's also accruing interest on his smaller slice of investment. He's never seen that kind of deal before. Trust me, I know, because that's how I felt when I first started looking at tax lien investing. Okay, so you've got to answer these 3 questions right up front before you're going to get anybody to stroke you a check. Okay, first impressions matter. Okay, if you're putting together some sort of pro forma or prospectus on a deal, it better look like $1 million. Because when I get people presenting me potential deals and it looks like they've chicken scratched something together, I think that's exactly how they're going to manage the project. So if they're that bad at putting together a simple pro forma or prospectus, okay, I think that that's how they're going to manage the project as well. It's going to be sloppy without all the details that I want to see. And that's a perfect way to lose money in a rehab or investing in tax lien certificates or tax deeds or operating a rental property. So it better look slick. Okay. It should have some numbers like this. Now, if you're investing with a tax lien, you can insert some simple math up here about how the tax lien investment accrues and what that redemptive value might be after 6, 12, 18 months. And then you can insert some numbers about what it might take to rehabilitate the property if you guys do indeed end up with the property, okay? And there's all kinds of great software that produces these kind of reports out there, guys. Don't spend a lot of money on getting something like this, okay? Piecing together something like this to where it shows what the partner's potential cash side is, what their upside is great. Okay. Open your business. Okay. There's all kinds of postcards you can do. Internet advertising. That's a whole different. I'm not probably qualified to teach everything about social media. I've got my little specific things that I've done over the years, but just know you got to let people know that you're in business. Okay. There's just a few sample postcards. You can make these into ads online. Okay. Are you looking for a safer alternative to the stock market? That line has worked pretty well for me, that headline. Okay. Just giving you examples of previous things, free reports. You can get real creative here. Split test, split test, split test. I love what this guy does down in Phoenix. He's still going. He's a house flipper, but he's really done well at gathering private investor partners. He puts it up on his blog. He's got everything broken down, and he has a very good website that I think it's really easy to put together one of these websites, by the way, pretty cheap. Okay. All right. You've heard all this from that last one, that last bullet point. You know, it's never about us, you guys. It's never about us. We could be in a $2,000 suit with a Rolex and just drive up in the nicest car in the world thinking we're going to impress somebody. That never impresses me. Okay. The deals will attract the money to you. So become very good at finding the deals, finding motivated sellers, learning in areas where A motivated seller, guys, remember how this ties into tax lien investing. A motivated seller is somebody that's in financial trouble. You have a whole list on these tax auction sites that we just went through, pages and pages and pages. Every single one of those tax lien certificates represents somebody that's in financial trouble and is a motivated seller. Okay? And now you have a source to go right there and with our training here, figure out just about everything that's going on with that property. Okay? So I'm giving you, all kinds of fun techniques to find motivated sellers. Now, on the other side of that, to grow your business, you've got to find some capital to grow at the pace that you want. Some of you may be capitalized and have some good savings and resources already. What I'm telling you is that even if that's the case, still keep hunting, okay, for partners, private investors. Just make sure you have a good attorney that sets up your corporation, that everybody is very clear. And I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm telling you to go seek legal advice if you enter into a partnership, okay? All right, let's see. Keeping an eye on developmental trends. Infrastructure changes in a community. Let me expand this. I'm going to give you an example, guys, of a huge, massive mistake that I made maybe about 10, 12 years ago. I had an inside track on something and I missed it. But let's briefly talk about developmental trends. It's important to pay attention to infrastructure changes in a community. Some are positive and increase values for property owners, while others, or even the same ones for other property owners, have the opposite effect. For example, a bridge over a river that connects a stylish part of town with an industrial part of town, or a new exit off a freeway that increases traffic to your residential neighborhood. Both of those examples can increase or decrease property values based on the type of property and purpose. Very important for tax lien investing that you kind of understand this as well. We talked about attending local planning and zoning meetings already, okay? Learning about future road construction is not difficult. So the Department of Transportation at the state level, here, for example, in Arizona, it's called UDOT, Utah Department of Transportation. It's an awesome site because they have plans out to about 10 years of approved roadways that are in line to be built, or expansions to roadways or new freeway exits. We just did a deal with Arizona Department of Transportation buying that little easement strip. And if I was doing a lot of big projects or more buying in Arizona, I'd be on their site trying to figure out where new growth was coming. So that's actually a great site to, and I put in here, we always call the guy lucky that sold his old farm, cow pasture, whatever, to Walmart for $1 million lucky. But it's not luck all the time, guys. Sometimes it is, but usually not. Okay, and I'm going to give you another secret of real estate is that just hold on to a certain part of your portfolio forever, okay? Plan to will it to the next generation. That's really the number one way to make money in real estate is just hold it for a long time, okay? You think about some of the people that made their money in big, huge empires, Rockefellers, whoever. I know there's some industrial stuff, but a lot of this was from holding land, okay? So I'm going to go out to the map and I'm going to show you one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my real estate career. And it's a little bit painful talking about. Let's go over here. All right. So this is so fun telling you about my mistakes, but I think you'll appreciate it. So we're about half an hour south of Salt Lake City here, okay? And here's this little town of American Fork, all right? And a good friend of mine's a real estate broker in town, Tim Mills. And Tim and I are actually good friends as far as family and do barbecues and stuff like that together. So Tim and I are talking one day and he said, Sean, I've got these 2 listings just on the outskirts of town, and let me dial this in here, guys. Okay, just on the outskirts of town. Now, okay, guys, you see this red line is the actual city, American Forks city limits. Okay, and you can see what's there now. There's a Costco, that's a Lowe's, that's a Walmart Supercenter, Home Depot, this is a Best Buy, there's a Bed Bath & Beyond in there, a Hallmark store right next to it. This is all retail, Chick-fil-A. This was the old Kmart with a handful of little gas stations and houses. And this was about 10, 12 years ago. 10, 12 years ago, okay, there was nothing here. This looked like this was all farmland and small farmhouses. Okay. This, okay, looked like this. Okay. Same thing. And it wasn't annexed into the city. It was all rural farmland, much of this as well. Okay, this has all been built up in the last 10 years or so in the big boom. So he had 2 listings. Now, if you could imagine all this as farmland, and this was an old 2-lane road, about 12 years ago. There is an old farmhouse right here that encompassed this acreage. I think this was about 2.5 acres or 3 acres. Yeah, this was the 3 acres. Old junker farmhouse. Wanted about $110,000 for it and all the 3 acres. And I'm like, Tim, I'm swamped. I don't know how. I'm not going to cash flow on the rental of that. Who's going to rent that from me? It's an old junker house. It's like from the 1940s. Same thing here. Just about 2.5 acres. Just an old junker farmhouse owned by the same owner. And I passed on them. I think the total combination of these with everything was around $300,000 to $320,000. Really blew it, didn't I? Because about 4 years later, 3 years later, this piece sold. This piece sold first for about $600,000. Really missed the boat on that one. Okay, and this had already been announced and going gangbusters. None of this retail was up in here or restaurants yet, but when they made that announcement, it was about a year after these sold. All of a sudden, this became the hot spot. About 680, I think this sold for, something like that, and this went for 1.3, maybe a year and a half later. Really blew it, guys. Single biggest mistake I think I've made in my real estate career. And guess what? A lot of this stuff had already been being talked about in certain commercial circles with commercial agents, and those guys were doing their homework talking to both cities, because this complex, okay, is part of 2 cities. This is Lehigh, who's done very good with their master growth plan, and they've expanded a lot out here, amazing subdivisions, country clubs, all that fun stuff, golf resorts. The other side was American Forks. So if I would have been following developmental trends, city council notes, talking to some developers, whoever, commercial guys, and was better informed about things going on when I had, and these properties were not on the open market. The seller was not requiring my broker friend Tim to actually list them on the open market. He didn't care. I could have bought them before anybody else in the world knew about it, other than me and Tim and the owner of the properties. That's an inside deal, if there ever was one. And what I'm saying, guys, is although some of this stuff may be very dry and boring, and why do I need this? If I'm just buying a $500 tax lien certificate, for crying out loud, Sean, this is overkill. Trust me, it's not, you guys. You got to trust me based on this one mistake in my career, okay? It may pay big dividends to pay attention to some of these extra details that we've been talking about. Okay, very good. So let's see, we've got some more time. Stop beating up your space bars. Okay, so I've been a little loud on hitting my space bar here. All right, good. Now, let's do a couple other things. I want to come back. We've got just enough time to do our summary, you guys, on particular things in our frequently asked questions document here that we've already covered. I won't cover again, or we'll go very quickly through them just for a quick review.